In the first 9 months of fiscal year 2026, the U.S. deficit rose $29 billion year over year to $1.37 trillion. That's the deficit, okay? The third highest deficit at this point in the fiscal year in history. Over the same period, net interest expense rose $78 billion. That's interest to $827 billion. On track with the highest annual net interest expense on record. That's good. At least it's record breaking. Guinness Book. There you go. Maybe they give me some money. Maybe they'll do like that telethon, Americathon, like that movie. There you go. Outlays and receipts. Oh, wait a minute. What? Hold on a second. What? I don't understand. Now, they've got custom duties there, otherwise known as tariffs. Well, I got curious today, so I did some looking up. I said, regarding those tariffs that Trump imposed last year, that the U.S. Supreme Court found to be unconstitutional, the IEEPA tariffs. Well, approximately $166 billion of IEEPA tariffs were collected by the U.S. government. Of the $350 billion that they collected, $166 billion was from the IEEPA that they found unconstitutional. And that's supposed to be refunded, right? And that ruling came at the end of February 20th. It was like a week before the U.S. attacked Iran. Happy Valentine's Day, in a way. Now, as the most recent available data up to July 10th, when I looked it up, as of the most recent available data, about $86.3 billion has been repaid of the $166 billion. Yeah. In other words, the Trumpers haven't returned approximately half of the stolen expropriated cash because there's interest due as well. That's just awesome. So let me just show you a little something for the NewsGuard people. Tariff refund update. Yep, important progress has been made on repaying illegally collected tariffs, but serious problems remain, including some caused by the Trump administration's efforts to keep some of the illegally collected loot. Wait, what? No, wait a minute now. This is from Ilya Solman. I used to see Ilya's name when I was writing a lot of MRC TV articles, so that's cool, along with Scott Lincecum. So there you go. I wanted to give you that information because that's not good, obviously. And I also want to just hand this to you when it comes to Venezuela. I'll tell you a little bit more about Marco Rubio's control of Venezuela, but I want to talk about Rubio's attempt to shut down the ICC before we close things off here and go into Textual Tuesday. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's July 2026 campaign against the ICC attempts to dismantle the International Criminal Court brick by brick through sanctions, visa bans, and pressure on allies to withdraw. So this is getting appropriate attention, and I don't want to drop the attention myself either. The ICC was intended, says Glenn Dyson, by the West to facilitate a hegemonic system of sovereign inequality by putting other leaders on trial. This is what they wanted, but now it's come back to burn the people like the Israeli genocide machine, and it could burn Donald Trump. Between 2002 and 2015, almost 100% of ICC indictments were against Africans. The arrest warrant against Putin to legitimize the proxy war and undermine diplomacy fit the same objective. But the arrest warrant on Netanyahu could be a death sentence for the ICC, as it was not designed to target allies of the U.S. and the political West. So here's the Wall Street Journal, Marco Rubio, why we're dismantling the International Criminal Court. That's actually a piece written by him that was published yesterday. So here's a little bit more. I said, this is a good overview of the unscrupulous actions of Rubio and Trump et al. U.S. to seek dismantling of International Criminal Court. This is from the Jurist. Ingrid Burke-Friedman. The U.S. will launch a diplomatic campaign aimed at dismantling the ICC, said Rubio in the Wall Street Journal. In an op-ed published in the journal, Rubio wrote that the U.S. would work alongside allied governments to take the court apart brick by brick, if necessary. Wasn't that an Aerosmith album? Using all tools of the government's disposal. He said the campaign's message to other governments would be a choice of sovereign states over globalism. That's got to be the way, because the MAGA people hate globalism, especially when possible globalism might actually call to task some people who are involved with genocide and war crimes. Whoops. Even though the United States helped set that up, can't have that. It's an even larger excuse. So they're utilizing and leveraging the hatred of globalism, the WHO, the global green climate cult, and all that stuff to now absolve themselves of association with genocide, which is just a wonderful thing. It's just great. Because the court is a treaty body that only its member states can dissolve, the U.S. lacks the authority to dismantle it. The op-ed does not detail specific measures, but a State Department official told Reuters that options are under consideration, and they include travel bans, visa revocations, expanded sanctions against the court and affiliated organizations, and diplomatic pressure on member states to withdraw. The official said countries that rely on U.S. security assistance and decline to reject the court's authority over Americans are likely to face increased scrutiny. In other words, you're going to try to extort them and blackmail them. Rubio cited the court's 2020 authorization of an investigation into the situation in Afghanistan, which included possible crimes by U.S. forces, as well as more recent calls by activists and a former ICC prosecutor to treat Trump administration deportations and military strikes as international crimes. Yeah, that's what they are. According to Reuters, the court has taken no recent steps against U.S. personnel, and since 2020, prosecutors have deprioritized the U.S. role in the Afghanistan investigation in favor of alleged Taliban and Afghan government crimes. The ICC, established in 2002 under the Rome Statute, which we mentioned last night, and seated in The Hague, has 125 states, parties, including nearly every U.S. treaty ally in Europe, as well as the UK, Japan, South Korea, and Australia. The U.S. is not a member. President Bill Clinton signed the Rome Statute in 2000, but declined to submit it to the Senate, and Congress in 2002 passed legislation authorizing the president to use all means necessary to free Americans detained by the court. Well, this has a lot to do, and the reason I brought up the United States, this has a lot to do with appearances in the UN, right? So members of the ICC typically go and speak in front of the UN. Well, if they want to just operate outside the United States, they should just do that. And again, if anybody from the United States who's accused of being a war criminal comes over, even if the United States is not a party to this, then those nation states that are signed on to the ICC can decide what they're going to do. The announced campaign departs from the approach of prior administrations of both parties, which maintained U.S. non-membership while supporting international criminal justice in specific cases, so they can have their cake and eat it too. The U.S. helped establish the Yugoslavia and Rwanda tribunals of the 1990s. Even though the United States wasn't part of the ICC, they used it to their advantage and accepted the Security Council's referral of Darfur to the ICC in 2005. Washington supported the Security Council's referral of Libya in 2011, of course, because they wanted to make Libya look like the bad guy while they took out the government there, and expanded its war crimes rewards program to cover ICC fugitives under Barack Obama. So there you go. They don't want the ICC to be around. They can't do anything about it because it's not something that the United States can stop or do anything. So they're just going to try to punish the people who are the members of the ICC and who are vocal in speaking up about the U.S. That's the way they're going to do it. Isn't that great? Ha ha ha.